Spoiler alert. This is everything you might have missed Dateline episode last night thanks to the person who spent the time jotting this down. Interesting. Let's read through this. Investigators confirm Bryan Kohberger was Papa Roger. For all those who claim this was nonsense, I believe you should apologize. So he was. Whoops. That's freaking crazy. Sources say rumor that BK was messaging them on social media is not correct, but he may have been stalking them via geotagging. Spring of 2022, BK interviewed online for internship for Pullman PD. After not getting the internship, BK was hired as a TA, teacher's assistant, at WSU. July 2022, BK moved to Pullman. A month prior, he purchased the K-bar and sheath from Amazon. Experts say he thinks BK casted a part with an individual who fits the fantasy, a prototype. Just like I said, a transformer of all different SKs. Friend of Kaylee's thinks BK may have came across the victims at Mad Greek. An expert thinks it could be via social media. BK got a seatbelt violation ticket a mile and a half away from the house on the night that his phone first pinged in Moscow, of the 12 times his phone pinged in the area of the house. Well, a mile and a half is not that far because it's such a small area. They mention an incident from March 2022 where Ellie was called to a sorority house nearby the King Road residence because a girl's suitcase was taken from her car and put into the middle of the road, and she found items from her front seat in her suitcase and found her underwear in her cup holder. Stars. There is absolutely no proof of significance to BK, but they say that because in March, BK had already decided to move to Washington and was doing schooling online, they can't rule it out that he could have been in the area because they don't know where he was. I heard he was there in the springtime. BK had a coworker who had some weird things happen in her apartment, so she told BK, who recommended and installed a video security system, which they say he could pull up the camera to look at because he knew her Wi-Fi password. And experts think BK could have orchestrated the whole thing, and it may have been a stepping stone leading up to the worst crime. Multiple experts state they believe either Kaylee or Maddie were the target. They state the DNA on the sheath was touch DNA. They said police believe BK intended to leave after going back downstairs to the second floor, but encountered Zaina, who was still awake after ordering DoorDash and was still using TikTok. And experts think both her and Ethan were in the wrong place at the wrong time. He probably didn't see DM as he was focused on leaving because his plan had been botched. That's what I was saying. Go look at why I think BK didn't see DM. It explains it right there. I even give it the visual. They said investigators, not police, are convinced that BK could have been PR based on PR's post, Papa Roger, about the sheath. Sources say that at the time of the traffic stops in Indiana, police had not yet connected BK's Elantra specifically to the crime scene, but he was pulled over by officers doing routine drug in- interdiction where they were watching driver's behavior, and his erratic or unusual behavior is why he got pulled over, but did not alarm them enough to ticket him. It was after BK returned to PA that forensic genealogy on the sheath DNA led to a list of family members of including BK. 2 days before Christmas, they then used the DNA info to obtain a cell phone search warrant and found all the cell records showing he was near the residence of all the times and records of him owning a car that matched the one seen around the residence at the time of the unalivings. Investigators found out that BK's sister noticed him wearing latex gloves and pointed out that he lived near the crime scene and drove the same car they were looking for, and pointed out that the family should consider that BK might have unalived the 4 students in Moscow, and went outside to check his car, but by that point, BK had already been seen by Ellie cleaning his car with bleach. Ellie found 2 IDs inside the parents' house, ID cards in a glove in a box that belonged to 2 women, but not to the victims. Wow. Oh my gosh, you know what? No. Man, would that be from prior? Would that be from prior? Prior freaking crimes? See, we thought this whole time that the ID cards they belonged to, well, one ID at the beginning. One ID belonged to one of the victims. Now it says ID cards in a glove in a box that belonged to 2 women, but not to the victims. He was trying to stash evidence at his parents' house on the trip there to have an alibi for visiting his parents for Thanksgiving, and he was stashing evidence. Then he was going to go back to Pullman because his parents aren't going to go through his shoebox. So he would have stashed the evidence, drove back, and had none of the evidence with him in Pullman, so that way if investigators do come a knocking on his door after he's back, he's like, look, you can search the place. Yeah, go ahead. Meanwhile, he's keeping his mementos, the future objects he wants to hold in his hand and fantasize about in the future. He leaves them back at home in a shoebox where he knows mommy and daddy ain't going to go through the shoebox in a closet because it's their son. It's personal. Why would they go through it, right? It's a win. BK's thinking it's a win-win. I don't have it on me and I get to keep it for the future. Wow.